I'm Randy Sayers, and I live in Middletown, Maryland, and I'm just a farmer. We work hard every day to do what we do. We produce milk here. Two of these agents from the Treasury Department showed up, told me they had seized my checking account of $65,000. And the government's telling you they got all the evidence that they need to prosecute you. You can fight them if you want, but they have all the lawyers they want. If they don't have enough, they can hire more.
According to official records on the U.S. Department of Justice website, in 2019, at least $2,227 million was seized from American citizens. And that's just the cash taken by what's known as the Assets Forfeiture Fund. In the United States, civil forfeiture is a process by which law enforcement agencies take assets away from people they suspect of being involved with illegal activity. And they don't have to charge the owners with a crime or misdemeanor. That means a person only needs to be suspected of something for their cash, real estate, vehicles, and bank accounts to be seized, even without direct proof of guilt. Since the early 80s, this cash and property seizure tool has been gaining popularity as a weapon to combat drug traffickers and cartels. Eventually, though, enforcement officers began to seize money from completely innocent people. Civil forfeiture is still practiced in the United States.
I'm Randy Sayers, and I live in Middletown, Maryland, and I'm just a farmer. We work hard every day to do what we do. We produce milk here. We grow crops for our cows, and we have a processing plant and bottle our own milk and make yogurts and butter and cheeses and other things, and we home deliver them in the greater Washington, D.C. area. We've been doing this for 38 years.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Have a nice week.
Oh, you too.
I love you, you love me. Well, we're best friends like friends should be. With a great big hug and a kiss on each neck. Won't you say you love me?
Randy Sower's problems with the government began in February 2012.
Two of these agents from the Treasury Department showed up and asked me questions about my bank account, which, I never had a problem talking to them about it. I wondered when they were going to show up and ask questions about where all the cash came from, because we do farmers markets and our store takes mostly cash. At that time, almost all cash. So I didn't have any problem talking to them about it. So they asked me questions for about 15 or 20 minutes, and they asked me the question one time about where all the money came from, and I said, well, sometimes we have $12,000 or $14,000 a week if we do farmers markets and have some kind of special event on the farm. And with that question, they quit asking me anything and told me they had seized my checking account of $65,000. But they could tell that, from what they saw, that we were actually a farmer. We weren't, money launderers or drug dealers or anything like that. Me and my wife were pretty uptight about it because it was a felony, and they said, we could throw you in jail for this.
U.S. Internal Revenue Service agents pay particular attention to individuals who make frequent bank withdrawals and deposits of less than $10,000. It's supposed to be a means of pursuing people involved in a wide range of illegal activities such as prostitution and drug dealing. But agents often target people who have never had anything to do with criminal activity. Randy Sowers and his family are among them. They're seen as some of the most respectable people in these parts. They produce and sell a top-quality, time-proven product and care a lot about their reputation. Their stand at the Baltimore Farmers Market always attracts a big crowd. Parents love taking their children to the Sowers farm on field trips. They have designated hours when visitors can feed the calves and then feast on ice cream that was made right there on the farm.
That was the whole idea through the whole ordeal was, you can fight this if you want to fight it, but, we got all the evidence we need to convict you of this structuring. because you told us, you sometimes get $12,000 or $14,000 a week, but you never deposit more than 10. But actually, one time my wife did deposit $12,000. The bank teller told her, or asked her not to deposit more than 10, because it was a lot of extra paperwork for her, and she just appreciated if we kept it under $10,000. That's what my wife did. So in the beginning, we thought, after we talked to the prosecutor, said, we're going to keep some of your money, but you'll be able to maybe negotiate how much we're going to keep. So that's what my lawyer was kind of working on. Trying to work through, and I got a call from Baltimore City paper one day, and they were asking me about the case because they saw the documents coming out of the Baltimore, federal court building.
Randy agreed to give the Baltimore Sun newspaper an interview, but the resulting article got him into even more trouble. It was now clear why people rarely spoke to the press about state agencies seizing money. They tended to keep quiet out of fear. We asked the IRS media office about Randy's case, but they didn't respond.
So we got to the point where we thought we had to take the settlement because, they were ready to prosecute us and throw us in jail. And they said if we fought them, instead of keeping $30,000 and giving me the other $35,000 back, they were going to make me pay them the whole $650,000 that we had deposited in that checking account for that 32 weeks that we deposited that cash in there. So, they scare you into taking a settlement. So when we, decided we were going to take a settlement and the papers came through, they wanted me to admit that I did something wrong. But it wasn't in the other, documents of other people that went through the same thing. And when my lawyer called and said, what's going on here? Why does, the paperwork for my client read different than the other clients? And again, he said because he went to the press. So they're going to be harder on me because I went to the press with this.
Randy Sowers had no choice but to agree to the terms. $35,000 were returned to him, and the state kept the remaining $30,000.
What we found out was a lot of this money goes to the local law enforcement people that help get the money. It's distributed different ways, we found out. It doesn't all go to the IRS or Justice. Some of these local people get the money. That's why they're so intent on, getting it, because they get to use some of it.
Eat the ice cream. The cows don't like ice cream.
Randy thought there was no way he could recover the rest of his money. He'd need to hire expensive lawyers even to try, and they would cost more than he could get back from the authorities, especially after spilling the beans to a local newspaper. As Randy puts it himself, it was hard to believe that all this was happening on land where people had fought and died for their rights and freedoms.
So my American flag needs to be replaced. The wind's got it tore up. Everything we've got left is the stars. Battle of South Mountain. This was McClellan's headquarters here.
Civil War?
Yes. It's actually, the road here used to be the main roads. A lot of the presidents came through here. One house there on the corner was Fox's Tavern, and I think Lincoln supposedly stopped in there. And the government's telling you they got all the, evidence that they need to prosecute you. You can fight them if you want, but they have all the lawyers they want. If they don't have enough, they can hire more, and you're the one who has to pay to defend yourself. It's going to cost you more in the long run to defend yourself, so most people just, let them keep the money and lick their wounds and went on.
But luckily for Randy, an advocacy group called the Institute for Justice read his story in the press. And thanks to the efforts of the organization's lawyers, Randy did recover the rest of the money that the state had kept, $30,000.
It took me 5 years to get the money back. And that was from a paper that the Institute for Justice filed. And I was the first one that has ever gotten any money back once they give me all their money back. People got parts of their money back just like we did, usually about half of it.
In Randy's opinion, the state has long stopped taking care of its citizens as it should according to the Constitution. And every year it's getting harder and harder to run any kind of business, and that's especially true in agriculture. Many family farms that have been around for generations have gone bankrupt and had to become something else.
Oh, there's lots of farmers going out of business these days, lots of them. But the government wants Americans to have cheap food, so they kind of force the farmers to work for nothing. They're always coming up with some kind of new regulation.
One of Randy's most recent challenges is a flood insurance fee for his old hen house. That's where he stores hay and old farm machinery now. Keeping hens wasn't profitable, but Randy still needed to repay a bank loan. And that's when a new government requirement came into the picture. Now Randy has to pay yet another fee for flood insurance. Randy says he hired an independent expert to assess the flood risk. The engineer determined that there was no possibility of flooding, but the state officials could not be reasoned with, and the new annual insurance premium was set at $7,000.
Building was built in 1990. We got a permit from the county to do it. They came out and inspected the site. Even at that point in time, they wouldn't let you build buildings in the floodplain. Nobody ever said anything about it until 5 years ago, which was 25 years after this building was built. And flood insurance is all through FEMA. I mean, other insurance agents broker it, but the money actually goes to FEMA, which is a government agency. And, you know, they've been bankrupt since the flood in New Orleans, so they need money, so they came up with this way to get extra money. Because there's a lot of buildings in floodplains that people have to pay insurance on.
Is there any way you can fight them? You can fight FEMA?
You can't fight it. Now, I'd like to get my law degree, and I'm looking into doing that. If I get that, then I'm going to fight them because, you know, I can do it for nothing. But until that happens, what do? You can't pay lawyers. I mean, it just costs you way too much money.
When the flood insurance issue was first raised, Randy thought about going to the media for help, about holding a press conference right there at the old hen house. But memories of his civil forfeiture experience held him back.
When I, kind of blew the whistle on the structuring thing, that's why my lawyers is concerned about, me saying anything about it, because they say the government will always, come back after you with some other reason. So I think my name's on a list somewhere that, if the government employee finds a way to get us, they'll do it.